What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It's Wind Down Wednesday. I'm your host, Amelia Fortes. And how are you feeling that new intro? We're like a real show now. What else? Okay, yes. If it's your first time here, welcome to Wind Down Wednesday. I'm Amelia Fortes, self-love coach and healer. And we are here every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Sydney on Thursdays. And if it's your second or beyond time here, welcome back. Let us know what you think of the new intro. Tonight we are going to be talking about, we're going to talk a little bit about this astrology that's going on. We had a new moon in Leo yesterday. Hey, Jeremy. And there's some fuckery going on. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And yes, Jeremy, thank you. So we're going to talk a little about the astrology that's going on. And the big topic of tonight is about ditching the corporate world and leading a digital nomad life. We're going to talk about travel, fun, adventure, seeing the world. And for that conversation, I couldn't think of anyone better than my dear friend, Leah. And Leah is here today. You know Leah. She's been on the show before. Jeremy is saying yes, a lot of fuckery. Exactly. Leah's been on the show before, and she is my digital nomad bestie. We're going to talk a lot about that. But how are you doing tonight, Leah? Or today?
It's morning for me. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm in a cute little apartment in Sydney, and it's a beautiful day. I can see the park. Feeling pretty good, feeling relaxed.
I love it. I love it. If you're popping on, please drop a hello in the comments so that we can say hi to you. If you're catching us on the replay, give us a hashtag replay. So Leah is in Sydney, Australia right now, and I am in Queens, New York. So we're worldwide up in here, which is perfect for tonight's topic. So like I mentioned, tonight we are going to be talking about ditching the corporate world and living a digital nomad lifestyle, travel, fun, and adventure, which is our big topic for tonight. But before we go into that, I want to talk a little bit about the new moon in Leo that happened. Well, we're kind of like in it, but yesterday was the new moon. But I'm curious, how are you feeling, Leah? Have you had any fuckery going on this week?
Fuckery. I feel flat. I would say that's the word of the week. Just kind of like everything feels a bit basic.
Yeah, I would say I'm just popping onto the phone here. Okay. Yay, I can see you all on my phone, and so a little flat, a little bit basic. Yeah, do you energy kind of low then?
Yeah, really low.
Yeah. So today I'm actually like kind of groggy, and my energy's been kind of low too. What's going on even beyond the new moon? Some of you know I had a special Lionsgate healing webinar. I'm wearing my Lionsgate bracelet, by the way, still charged up with all the juiciness from last year's Lionsgate. So we had that, and there's just a lot of upgrades going on. Just a little bit of background. So, we are in a 3-dimensional reality, right? But Earth, Gaia, Mother Earth, our planet, raised to 5th dimensional consciousness in 2012. And so basically, when something is vibrating at a different frequency, that it's the planet that you're living on, it's bound to raise all of our frequencies. And you can even just think of it on an individual level. Like Leah, you and I, when we met, we actually just met a few months ago in Chile, South America. But we vibed. We were like on the same frequency. As soon as we met, we just really clicked, right? So think of it in terms of that, where you meet someone and you really click, or you meet someone that's vibrating really high, and just by being around them, you vibrate higher. Or then there's also the energy vampires, or the energy suck people, where when you're around them, their vibration is so low, so you kind of dip down a little bit, right? So it's all energy. We're all particles and energies vibrating in space. And so with Earth vibrating at a 5D now, it's raising us all up, which is why shit started to really hit the fan on individual and collective levels in 2012, probably even before then. But that's kind of what we're dealing with now. So it's kind of like this. If you've seen, I've put like hashtags 5D or bust, and that's basically like what I mean. Like either we start to vibrate higher or not, right? And so if you think about your life, and I'm curious how you feel about, if you agree with this, Leah, like from 2012 up until now, and especially 2020, like 2020 has been the big fuckery that we're all going through on a global level. But from that time, it's basically like we're being called to let go of anything that keeps us in lower vibrations. So there's just been a lot going in my life, definitely from 2012 until now. But I don't know, how do you feel about that, like with this whole earth going to 5D?
Yeah. It's interesting because I always wonder how much is to do with what's in the world around and how much is to do with just growing up as well. So obviously, so I'm 33. So the last 8 years I've been living in London, and that was a whole journey actually going on to leaving the corporate world, which I know we'll go into more later. That's kind of where the whole shift started for me 8 years ago. So it's been a very tumultuous time, loads of highs, loads of lows. But yeah, there's definitely that feeling that we need to do more. It can't just be our base existence of that, the trolling, the 9 to 5, the continuing to just go at the same pace. Like I feel like we definitely need to elevate more, and that's what I've been working on.
Yeah. So it's kind of in alignment. I mean, whether or not you, meaning the collective you watching this episode, believe in it or not, just looking at the last 8 years, I think a lot of us can say like, yeah, definitely energies have been shifting. And like you said, it's also a part of growing up, but collectively in a big way, I think, it's just one of my strengths. And if anyone's familiar with Strengths Finders, is connectedness. So I'm programmed to just see connections, even when people don't. So sometimes people think I'm crazy when I make these connections, which is okay with me because that's fine. Like I'm okay with that. But definitely for me, it's funny. So for you living in the UK for 8 years, because you're from Australia, and then you were living in the UK for the last 8. So you moved in 2012 then, around that time.
Yeah, it was 2012.
So for me, I'm from New York, which is where I'm at right now. But 2012 was when I moved to California. And there was a big vibrational shift for me moving from New York to California. I definitely felt like my life went from 3D to 5D over time. And I shed my corporate life, I shed relationships, I shed my partying life, like drinking and happy hour all the time. And I really opened up on a spiritual journey. That's when I started meditating a lot and reading those spiritual books that I had never been drawn to before. So I started to be drawn to different things until ultimately 2020, going to travel. Well, I traveled the world before that, but also actually, I mean, I was a big world traveler because my family generally is. But I would say my world travels really jumped off from like 2006, 2008, and then like in a big way, 2009, 2010, like up until now was when I was like traveling to a lot of different places. So sounds like we're right here. Oh, hey, Kat. Kat's here for this 5D wild ride. Jeremy said, done with all the Felicias and Felicities. Oh, wait, no. Let all those negative Nancys and Debbie Downers leave the planet. Yeah, bye-bye. Kat is here for this 5D wild ride. For sure. It's been a wild ride since 2012 and maybe even before. So the kind of more like local fuckery that's happening, there's this woman, she calls herself the Sky Priestess. I don't know if she calls herself that or if her audience calls her that, but her name is Dr. Bhairavi, and she is an astrologer, but she actually was a philosopher turned teacher turned astrologer, and she wasn't into the spiritual woo-woo stuff either until probably around the same time frame she started to be called into that and looking into the numbers of astrology. So her view of astrology is very like scientific. And late last year, she was talking about Therius, Thereus, Therius, who is a centaur in mythology. And so far, she's the only astrologer that I've seen speak about Therius and Therius' Theris's influences, and especially in 2020. 2020 is a year that is heavily influenced by Therius, and Therius is not a happy centaur. He was actually a hunter stalker, and 2020 has been peppered with strong influences by Therius. And she had put a call out for like, does anyone have any podcasts or shows where we can talk about Therius? And so I actually had her on my YouTube show. So I'm actually going to drop the link in here because I really want people to watch it and know about what's going on. But essentially, yeah, Therius is a sneaky, not nice motherfucker. And so when I spoke to her, when I recorded this episode, we had no idea about COVID or anything. But she was like, watch out, because it's like anywhere where there's a Therius influence can be on the, like, you know, and everyone gets affected in different ways. So it's not something that you like, oh my God, let me be scared. This isn't about falling victim to your fear, but it's about just like a weather report. Like if you know there's a hurricane coming, board up your windows kind of thing. So Therius, like it can either look like this is where you get kidnapped and like assaulted, or other things, but it's a very like rug ripped out from under you experience. It's a very, like, you can be blindsided by it. And this particular past new moon, I'm going to read Kat's comment in a second. Is Therius single? Because he sounds like my type. No, seriously, right? Like me too. Which actually is pretty funny, and you'll see it in the YouTube video. Dr. B pulled my chart, and she said, I have never seen a chart that's been more impacted by Therius. So my particular chart is heavily influenced by Therius. And hey, Erica, oh my gosh, I miss you so much. Therius needs to go, Jeremy says. And so I was like, great, you know, but when I think about my life, and a lot of you watching this show, you know, you get to know me. I've been through some shit. Like my life, like I've been through some shit. Not nice shit, you know, a lot, all throughout my childhood, my teen, like just the other day, you know. So anyway, Therius, one of the heavier influences of Therius in 2020 was this past new moon. So I just wanted to talk about that because I feel like there's a lot of just like the meh energy. A lot of my clients have been getting blindsided by shit, and it's a tough time. And so, or not. I mean, you might be one of the luckier ones. I don't know if you want to call it lucky, but you might just be like, I don't know, I feel pretty fine, which is also okay. But I just want to let you know, if you're going through some shit right now, like, you are not alone. I got blindsided by like at least 3 things on like Sunday morning at 6 a.m. So in my personal life and in my business. So, you know, and my clients have been getting blindsided by things. So it's really the lesson that Dr. B tells us is this isn't about activating your fear. This is about activating your community, leaning on each other, and your groundedness and your stillness and your centeredness, you know, being that eye of the storm, really activating self-trust and self-love. Because even if you get assaulted or whatever, energetically or physically, it's about trusting that you will get through it, kind of thing. And also leaning on your friends and like not going anywhere alone, kind of thing. So that's what's going on. Leah, does this resonate for you at all? Have you been kind of going through?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone obviously has a COVID story, so that would probably be the first abrupt one of my year. We embarked on our trip, which was supposed to be a year-long adventure around the world, and 2 weeks into it in Chile, I lost all of my jobs, all of my contracts within 3 days. Had to come back to Australia, which I left Australia and didn't ever plan to come back. So that was a complete shift. Had to build a business back up from scratch. I've encountered a couple of personal things that have occurred with men, which have completely blindsided me, things that have happened to me that have never happened to me in my whole life. So yeah, I've been very confronted on a personal and business level.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Mm.
And we have some other, like, because Erica, I don't know when you joined, but Leah also said her energy has been meh these last few days. Me too. Like today, I'm just kind of like, meh. You know, I've had some highs, I've had some lows, but generally I'm like, and Jeremy too is agreeing. Yes, I've been bleh. Kat is saying Therius is all up in my DMs. Yes, Therius is all up in my chart, in my natal chart, and all up in 2020. So, you know, when I think about that though, because I know there's been a lot of, and I've actually said this myself, but there's been a lot of like healers and spiritual leaders that have been saying fear is the real pandemic. I mean, of course, COVID is the real pandemic, but also fear. And COVID has definitely escalated our fear body, our pain bodies. And so, you know, yes, it sucks, but you know, me, I'm all like a solution like driven. And so it's like, okay, yes, this sucks, but also how is this happening for us? How is this helping us elevate to that next level, to go from that 3D to 5D life, you know? And while there's been a lot of really shitty things, you know, I lost 2 close family members to COVID. You know, our world trip got basically canceled. I too have had some blindsided things happen in my personal relationships with romantically and friendship wise. So it's like, but also like, what's here for us? What's the gift here? You know, because I do believe that everything that happens to us is actually happening for us. And, you know, that can sound hokey to a lot of people, but it's like, I don't know, I have to be an optimist. Like, I just don't live that like negativity life, and not saying I'm always positive, but it's like, why live a life where I'm believing in doom and gloom, you know? So even though you've had to start your business from scratch, in a lot of ways, I've had to like revamp a lot of different things, and I'm just growing and learning, but there is something positive in all this, right?
Definitely positive. Like, I don't see my business starting from scratch as a negative in any way, shape, or form. I've had to, the word surrender is probably my word of the year, because it's literally everything's taken from your hands and you're like, okay, just let it go. And now what have I got? What can I work with next? I got coronavirus too. And with that, actually, probably the most personal thing that's happened to me physically is through getting that, I lost my sense of smell. And I still don't have it back fully. I've got like I don't know what we call them, smell buds. I've got one smell at the moment, which is this weird smell. I can't even explain what it is, but like losing touch with your smell, like that's so involved in your sensuality and your feeling and your expression. So that's probably encountered for a lot of my meh. So I'm kind of having to explore my other senses more. They're coming more to life. So like, yeah, trying to figure out how I feel in the world again when I can't smell. It's a weird one.
I mean, I know it's like we don't realize how much smell gives us until we don't have it. Because it's also linked to like taste and food and just so many things.
Like the one that's come back. I ate a chocolate sundae the other day from McDonald's, and it literally tasted like fresh sheets, fresh laundry sheets. Like
cold, fresh laundry.
Cold, fresh laundry.
That's so interesting. Oh, yeah. I can't even imagine. But you know, I think the main lesson here though is like, don't feed into the fear. Feed into your strength. Feed into the resources you do have. And actually, one of my psychics, so, you know, I got my whole squad of healers and psychics and hypnotherapists that I go to, but one of them, she really helped me kind of have this practice where when I'm feeling like blindsided or like the rug has been ripped out from under me, it's like, she's like, yo, just imagine yourself naked in the woods. You're naked in the woods, and like, what do you have to rely on yourself to survive? And it's kind of like imagining that in a way of strengthening my sovereignty, my self-trust, my belief in myself that I can take care of myself. Because when everything's crumbling all around us, it's an indication that we're relying on something external to feel good and to survive and to take care of us. So she's like, just Naked in the Woods. And it's been helping me. So whenever I've been like blindsided, I'll be like, all right, Naked in the Woods, Naked in the Woods. And I have, like, even just meditating on that and imagining myself there, I have actually connected with like some really deep, strong parts of my badassery. Because it's like, yo, if I was naked in the woods, like, yeah, hell yeah, I would figure out a way to like skin a bear and like get some clothing, like without picturing that, I'm like, ew, no way. I would never be able to do that. It was like, hell yeah, I would eat a rat if I had to. You know what I mean? Like if I had to survive, like just anyway. So I think with this whole thing happening and all these Therius like influences, we're being brought back to like our true self and like the badasses in us and like, okay, what can we create from nothing? What can we do when our source of income has just been ripped out from under us? What can we do when we're lonely all the time now and we have no access to our escapism, our all of that, right? So who are we really, and what really matters, and who really matters, and what's really important? So yeah, which I think is a great segue into like our bigger topic of tonight, because at least for me, and I don't know how it is for you, because I've actually never like sat down and asked you about your like journey from corporate to like business and all that. So I'm excited to just like kind of have a date with you right now while everyone's watching and learn about this. But for me, at least, it's been all those questions that actually had me shed that corporate life and step into my creative artistry and my business and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think that's why I think it's a great segue. So yeah, tell me, tell us, like what was your journey, from corporate, or even just from like university, or like what did you think life was gonna be? And then like how did it evolve to like now you're traveling the world and running your own business? Like,
yeah. So my family is world travelers. My dad's English, my mum's Australian. So we've always lived this split existence going kind of between the two. When I was like 13, we lived in Brazil for 6 months. So that was probably my first encounter with a proper cultural shift in lifestyle. And then when I left school, I didn't want to go to university. So I didn't. And I started working, and I actually was an entertainer at a theme park for a bit. So I kind of, I had this like creative side of me that I knew wanted to come out. And I loved music. My first love and my brother were musicians. So I loved being in that industry. So I always wanted to do it, but I didn't want to be a musician myself. So I kind of got sucked into the corporate world by default. I started working in a desk job when I moved to Sydney at, how old was I, 19? And then I jumped from job to job and ended up working in sales and customer service. And then I ended up in investment products, pension. I don't know what the term is in this.
Pension.
Pension too? Yeah. So I work with pension and investment and wealth management products in one of the big 4 banks in Sydney. And I just, it's a standard story, isn't it? It's not really, your heart's not singing. And I decided to take the unconventional path already by not going to university. I knew it wasn't for me. I did start uni. I went for 6 months and I didn't like it. It just didn't fit me. So I decided to self-educate, and I did do some college courses. In the end, I studied music business because I knew I wanted to be in that realm. So I kind of forged my own path there. And then when I got to Sydney and I started working in this bank environment, I just felt so far removed from myself. And that was around 2012. And I was thinking I really wanted to head back to Europe, wanted to be in London because I felt it was more of a hub. It was more my soul home. So me and my boyfriend at the time, well, I pretty much dragged him with me, but I kind of said, let's do it. Let's save up, let's move, and let's just like take a plunge and start something new. So when end of 2012, we moved to London, and it was brutal. It was really hard. Our relationship unfortunately ended. He went back to Australia. I was supposed to go back, and I just went, nah, this is me. This is for me now. I want to stay. So I stayed in London. I got a job. Luckily, a company I was working for in Australia had decided to let me do some remote work for them. So that kind of gave me the platform to start my own thing. So I used that opportunity while I had time staying with some family and not London priced rent, to kind of build up my own thing. And then I just like launched into the music world. I met a musician, and that led to meeting another musician. And that's kind of how that world works. It's all about who you know. So I started doing some work as a tour manager and as an artist manager, just for small bands. And then it kind of became more lucrative. And that kind of evolved into a kind of consulting business where I was producing and project managing different events in music. And then, yeah, it's kind of just escalated from there. So with the travel part, I've always traveled. Basically, my main goals when I wanted to become self-employed were I wanted to eat when I wanted to eat, sleep when I wanted to sleep, and work when and where I wanted to. So I set up that precedent with every client I worked with, which was I will travel. So I could be working in your time zone, or it might be a different one. I'll work the hours that work for me, but I'll get the work done. And I don't want to have to wake up and eat breakfast just at this time because that's when I have to be in an office. So that was kind of the point for me where I knew I had to take control because they were kind of part of my livelihood.
Yeah. And what about, like, what inside you, was that something that was always inside you, or was it because of working in the normal corporate 9-to-5 world that you were just like, if I'm going to have my own business, I'm going to work my own hour? Like, what about you? Like, how did you know to even want that and ask for that?
Good question. So both my parents, my mum was a stay-at-home mum, and then she became an accountant later in life. My dad was a filmmaker, but he never really made a film. So he always had that freelance spirit, but never made money from his work ever. So we struggled quite a lot as kids because, the family did. We didn't have much money coming into the house, and we had both of our parents at home though. So for me, that was incredibly special to be able to have so much access to my parents growing up. So they've always kind of put that spirit into us that we can be anything we want to be. My dad was always like, you could be an actress. And my brothers wanted to be soccer players, or musicians. So like our family is very creative like that. So there was always that idea that we could literally do whatever we wanted. So when I kind of went into the corporate world, I wanted to make money. I wanted to show that I could make money and not have that kind of struggle that my parents did. And then there was a switch where I realized, actually, I can still do what I want to do and be creative and make money from it. So I have to kind of meld those two together, which is kind of where I've got to now with my business, so I have a company called Get Comfy with Money. And the whole premise is to help people feel more comfortable talking about money, making money, and elevating their wealth and creating that life that they want, so they're not so stressed. So it's kind of come a full circle. So I've kind of come back to what I think I already wanted to be. I just didn't know how to reach it.
Yeah. It's fascinating because I think I asked that question purely because I think a lot of people want to ditch whatever, and here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with like wanting to be in the corporate world. Like if that's your jam, then good. But it's like, you can replace ditching the word ditching the corporate world with whatever. It's like ditching whatever it is that you think you have to do to be successful and to have your livelihood, to actually creating what you want, right? So whether you might not want a digital nomad life, but it's like ditching whatever for whatever, right? And that's where like this piece comes in of like travel, fun, and adventure, living a life by design, right? And not everyone wants to travel either, but the words like living life by design is also interesting because I only started hearing about that when I was looking into like home-based businesses, right? And they keep talking like live a life by design. And like now like the coaching world, personal development world talks about like live a life by design. And I remember when I first started hearing that, I'd be like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, what is this like propaganda BS that people are talking about? Which I think it just sounds boring to me, just the words, but it's like, that's what people use. So that's why I'm using it here. But essentially what it means is like what your parents instilled in you, like you create your life.
Yeah.
It can be whatever you want it to be. However, depending on your family, who you grew up in, your culture, whatever beliefs your parents had or your primary caregivers had or your culture had or even your religion had or whatever paradigm you grew up in, whatever beliefs they had and passed on to you. You know, it's kind of like that whole thing of like being plugged into the matrix, and we don't even wonder if something else is possible. We just kind of end up wherever we end up. And that's the beginning of my story, really. You know, I never, well, I did wonder, but it got shut down. My sob story of when I was 15 years old and I was about to start my junior year of high school, and I was going to theater camp. I've always been an entertainer my whole life. I think I like sashayed out my mom's uterus, you know, like I've always been an entertainer. And so I was going to theater camp a lot, and I loved it, you know, and my teachers were just like Amelia is special, like she's a star and this and that. And so, and it wasn't even about being a star. I just really love performative arts or performing arts, whatever it's called. Anyway, I remember that summer after my sophomore year, I had like the best year at theater camp, like ever. Like I was in so many classes. I had all these amazing roles. I had a role where, and I was taking gymnastics at the time. So I had this role where I got to like make up my character and be this like badass, like elf gymnast, magical being thing. And then I also played a man with like this wonderful, just sassy, well, not sassy. You don't use sassy for men, but this snarky, like character. I had all these amazing roles, and like my teachers were just like, this is your path, you know? And I remember I told my mom, you know, my Filipino immigrant mom, and not that, you know, there's just a specific belief system that they have, which, right or wrong, it wasn't right for me. There's no right or wrong, but it wasn't right for me. Anyway, I was like, Mommy, I want to go to LaGuardia. That was like the performing arts school here in New York, the high school. I was like, I want to transfer to LaGuardia. Like, this is what I want to do. And I just like, with my heart singing and my teachers dancing behind me, like, she's a star, I'm a star, this is what I want to do. And I don't know if any of y'all have moms like mine, but she didn't even have to say much. She just gave me that look of like, are you crazy? Like who, like, how do you make money doing that? Like, whatever. She didn't even have to say much. She just gave me that look of like, no, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a nurse. You're going to be whatever the hell. And, you know, my karma with my mother, and she, for those of you that don't know, she passed away in 2013. But my karma with my mother is very, like, there's very much entanglement there for both of our healing, right? And so at that age, and from a young age up until like, I'm still working on untangling my relationship with my mom so that I can continue to be more of who I am. But I mean, I did everything for my mother. Like, all I wanted was, I'm like getting emotional. Like, all I wanted was to please my mother. And so she didn't have to say much, but even just like the inkling of her disdain was like, well, there goes my dreams of going to LaGuardia. And I remember actually being pretty resigned to my dreams after that, where I just did what we were supposed to do. I got good grades. You know, I graduated third in my class. Still mad about that because I was like 0.4. My average was like 0.4 away from being the salutatorian, but whatever. I went to school for engineering. Okay. And I worked on Wall Street for almost 10 years. So it was just like, I was resigned to my dreams, and there was a shell. And I think this happens to a lot of us, whether it was when you were 3 years old or 5 years old, or when you were 15, like me. Well, I think it happened to me over time, but definitely when I was like, well, there goes my dreams. And we just want to please our parents. We just want to please our society. We just want to, if you relate to my story, you know. And so I did what society said was good for you. I got really awesome grades. I went to college. I worked a big girl job where you have to wear pantyhose. You know what I mean? So I also worked at a big bank. And I told myself I was happy because I'm doing what you're supposed to do. and I was not happy. And I think that's why I asked you the question of like what clicked for you. So what I'm hearing for you, it was like, okay, you had one, what's the word? Incentive. I want to make money. But then somehow there was a question that was like, well, how can I make money and do whatever the hell I want kind of thing?
And I'm a stubborn person. So like, I hate being told what to do. So I really resented this idea of you need to be here at this time and do what we say between these hours. And I did read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Oh, yeah.
That was my turning point book. And I just remember one story in that book being, so he was working a 9 to 5 and he was in sales, and he figured out if he went in at 6 a.m. instead of 9 a.m., he'd have a 3-hour window where he could talk directly to the founders or the CEOs of the company rather than through their receptionist. And he got all the sales and more during those 3 hours. And they said, great, so we want you to now work from 6 a.m. through the rest of the day to get those numbers. And he said, you don't understand. We can't work 9 to 5 to get those results. We have to work 6 to 9. And that kind of shifted me. It's like not every job takes that time or those hours. And I know I'm more productive at different times of the day. I know that I work better in the afternoon, and I prefer to do personal stuff in the morning. So that's kind of become my routine, and I will get the results. I'll work harder. Like I'm a really hard worker, probably too much so at some points, but I know what works for me. So it's kind of owning that and understanding, no, I know myself well enough to know that kind of work doesn't work for me.
So it's like, it's again, like kind of what the theme, or one of the themes we're talking about, is like honoring exactly who you are and being willing to break the molds and like go for that, because it's, especially if exactly who you are goes against what like society is saying. Right. And so I think for me, it was like, I've always been a questioner. Like I was literally that girl 6 years old in CCD. So CCD is like the Sunday school you go to when you're Catholic, if you don't already go to Catholic school. So I was 7 years old in CCD, and like I was questioning everything. Like my poor teacher was like, Jesus said this and this is what you're supposed, and I was like, well, how do we know? How do we know that's what we're supposed to do? How do we know that's what Jesus did? Like, were we there? Like, where's the text? Like I was always like asking questions and questioning the status quo. So I think that is part of who I am. And I think not a lot of people naturally do that, but I also think a lot of people do. And I think that's why I got into what I'm doing, because it's like I can ask the questions that will cut through the BS and be like, okay, well, what's the truth? And so for me, and a lot of people have probably heard this bit of the story, but like I was plugging away at my desk, and there was just this moment where I was like, this question, it literally came up probably from my uterus, right? As all the good things do come from. It just came up and was like, is this it? Like, is this my life? Like, am I meant, and I'm like, what, 20 or whatever? Am I meant to do this for the next 50 years? Like, this is what everyone's been like, what is it, hemming and hawing about? This is what everyone's been like, this is success. And I was just like, this does not feel like success. Realizing that I'm meant to be here for the next 50 years, like that sounds like hell. That does not sound like what I want. I was like, I want to be traveling. I want to be out there. I want to be doing whatever I want. I don't want to have an alarm clock. I want to like have my own hours. I want to do whatever I want. And no, I didn't figure it all out in that moment, but I think just starting to ask the questions is how you kind of ditch the corporate world for the digital nomad life, or ditch the whatever world for the whatever life, right? And whatever you want is, and being okay with the fact that whatever you want is not wrong. But you gotta, yeah, go ahead. What?
Yeah, it's harder because you have to find your new circle, which I think comes into the digital nomad side. So I've been in this kind of limbo between the two. So working from home, you're isolated. You've got a whole lot of struggles with trying to make things happen on your own. And where I realized I wanted to take that to the next step was I wanted to have a community like you have in a workplace that felt the same way and worked the same way that I did. So we need that, like humans crave that community, that connectivity. So yeah, I had to go on that venture and go, okay, where's the people who want to travel, who want to work their own hours and who can work remotely? Like, where are they? Let's find them and let's all get together and make that happen.
Yeah. So how did you find that? Like, what was your journey from, okay, so you were running your own business, having your contracts with clients, and you already set the boundary, which is an amazing self-love tool with your clients of like, I'm traveling, so I'm going to work my hours and you're going to, when you sign up with me, this is what you're agreeing to. So great. How was your journey of that up until like leading up to Chile where we met, which is a digital nomad community. That's how we found each other, from the digital nomad community. How did you just do a bunch of Googling, talk around? Because mine is actually a pretty interesting story, but I want to hear yours too.
Yeah, it was just, to be honest, I think it was on Instagram. It was just, they know how to target you with those algorithms. So they knew.
They're listening to us.
Yeah. So I saw it one day and I went, that sounds interesting. And then it kind of lodged at the back of my mind. I was in a long-term relationship. I had a house. I own a house in London. So as much as I have the freedom to travel and I was like going away for parts of the year, I was still very much rooted in London. I had a friend group. I had like family, a massive network, and that was scary to leave. I set myself into a groove after 8 years of working that way. So yeah, then I actually came to Australia last year on a holiday, and it ended up being 6 week. Well, it was a 3-week trip that turned into 3 months, and I just did a lot of soul searching in that time and realized that I needed to detach myself. And those you put all those buts in your mind, like, oh, but I have a house. Oh, I've got all this furniture. Oh, I've got all this stuff. Oh, I've got all these connections, these friends. And you put all these barriers up. And I kind of deconstructed them all and went, actually, all I have to do is logistics. I have to get home. I have to move out of my house. I have to sell my stuff, put it in storage, and say goodbye to everybody. Like, I just have to go through those motions if I want it. And my relationship ended. So that to me was like the linchpin. That was the last thing that was kind of left holding me in London. And so I went, I need to do this now, because if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. I'm going to get into another relationship and I'll be stuck here again. So I know it's kind of sad to think that it's kind of, you're tied down by a significant other, but that was the reality of the situation I was in. And so, yeah, I felt the courage to just do it. So I put down a deposit. I literally booked it in December to start the trip in March. And then I just sold everything and met you in Chile on the 1st of March.
We fell in love in Chile. We fell in love in Santiago. What is it, on the hill? We fell in love on the hill.
On the hill, yeah, on sunset. It was beautiful.
I love the story. Oh yeah, the sunset. Oh my gosh, we have a pretty romantic story, don't we? Yeah, I mean, mine was also like, and I love hearing everyone's stories, right? But I've always been a traveler, period. And my business had always been 90% virtual from the time I started it 4 years ago. But I too was in a relationship, and I was also going through a lot of different things, and traveling wasn't as much on my mind because I was building this business. I was building the relationship. I was very happy in that. It was like, we're going to get married in a couple of years, pop out some kids. Like, that's where we were going. Or that's where I was going, at least. But there was always I was missing travel. And so with building the business too, I had some pretty low points financially. And so obviously working on Wall Street, I was making amazing money. So I was like going on these lavish trips and not even thinking about it because I would always make more money. But with building the business pretty much from scratch, it was just like, yep, I'm going to build this and then I can travel, build this and then I can travel. And so, but I had been missing traveling for like a while. And I was in like this workshop, some personal development workshop, as I am. And they had us walk around and ask that question, like ask each other the question, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And I didn't even know that this was like, right. It was right there. And like what I said was I would travel the world and I would document it. Like, that's just what I would do. I would just do that. And then I was like, so I can do that. Like, cause I was like, that's not exactly something hard to do. Like I think where you had that moment of like, emotionally, yes. And all of that is like, that part's hard, sure. But like literally, logistically, it's not exactly hard to do. It's just like So you just go do it.
Yeah, you just let it out and go.
Yeah, there's nothing, and of course, like money, like there's lots of considerations that do come up, but theoretically, or like just it's not that hard. Like it's like, so I can do that. This isn't like if I knew I could not fail, I would find the cure for what it's just like I would travel the world and document it. Like, okay, let me do that, and of course that started the conversations with my partner at the time and just with myself and with my friends. And then of course, probably like you, as our phones are listening to us, it was on Instagram, and their Instagram ads are pretty good. And so I found it. I signed up pretty much right away, which was a year before we left, actually. And the only reason I waited a year was because of the relationship and the conversations that needed to happen in order to move that forward or not. Like, are we going together? Are we not going together? Are we staying together? Are we not staying together? So, life happened, and it was just like, it's like, I don't have kids. I'm not married. And like, it was also kind of like, look, like I said to my partner, I was like, if you're not putting a baby in me right now, like I need to go do this. Like whether we stay together or not, because that was like, there was lots of conversations that had to happen as they do in partnerships, but it was like if there's a baby in me, sure, I'll stay. Right? Like, or maybe even not, because like, I don't live life with limitations. You know what I mean? Like if I could fly, I would fly. It's actually the main reason I wanted to be a dancer, because I feel like I'm flying, which anyway, we're going somewhere else with that. But it was just like, I need to do this. Like if I'm not going to be
yourself, yeah, that future you will regret it if you don't take that. Yeah.
And it's fun. Like, so for me, it's not even the regrets that pull me or push me. It's like, it would like my uterus. Like, I know I talk about my uterus a lot, but like I'm so happy I have one, because it's like, she knows everything. And my uterus was like, you need to get out in the world. Like, it doesn't even matter what it looks like. You just need to do it. And if you don't have a uterus, rub the nearest uterus. And get some answers. Actually, I'm laughing too, because I'm reminded of Jeremy. See, look, Jeremy says I have a uterus too. So I was actually going to talk about you, Jeremy. In my private Facebook group where I have these self-love healing transmissions, there's one on sex and pleasure. And so I talk a lot about pussy. And hopefully Facebook doesn't put me in jail for saying that, because I know people that have gone to jail for saying that. But anyway, I was talking about pussy. And I was like, pussy is not just hardware. Pussy is software. Pussy is a state of mind. Like, you can have the intelligence and the intuition of pussy, whether you have the hardware or not. You know what I mean?
Love it.
So I just remember Jeremy was just like, yeah, my man pussy. Anyway, do you remember that? Jeremy saying that? I remember. But yep, wah, exactly. So whether you have a uterus or not, I mean, we all came from one, so we all have uterine intelligence.
Yeah.
But my point of saying all of that is like stop life. I feel like the universe will make your life literally fall apart if you don't listen to that divine guidance. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. And even so, what I find interesting, like, we took off on this journey. We both went, this is where we want to go. We met. The world kind of put this to a complete standstill, and we were forced to change our plans. And what I learned is that the trip that I embarked on was actually not the trip I was supposed to go on. It was just like it was like the interlude, like the intro. It was like giving me a taste, going, this is what you want to do. I've now like got rid of all the ties that were holding me back from thinking that this life was possible, this type of life and lifestyle. And I was able to now grow a business that actually I care about deeply and I'm really passionate about. And now I'm ready to go back out on the road again. I'm ready to go, but with different people. So consciously choosing the group of people rather than going with a pre-chosen group. I think that's one of the takeaways. And so meeting people like you, and then from you, we're starting to build our own community of people who we want to now create our own digital community, which we can then start traveling around the world when these things are possible to the countries that are open still or will allow us in.
Years when more countries open up, like that's it.
Yeah.
This is the life we've chosen. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I don't know where my home is now. It's in a bag in my room. Now that's my stuff. I'm here. So who knows where I'll be next week, let alone next month.
Yeah, and of course that life is not for everyone for sure, but I think whether you're interested in a digital nomad life or not, because I actually do know people that have no interest in travel, which is super weird to me, but hey, to each their own. What we're talking about here though is ditching whatever you think your life is supposed to be, like whatever programming you had from your parents or your culture or whatever, that's like, this is what life is, and actually asking the question, like, is this actually what I want? And I even think about I do a lot of like life coaching and stuff, and I think about one person I was working with who is an actress and was very much hating LA. Like hated LA. Like there was a lot of just things that were not in alignment in LA, but kept saying, I need to be in LA. I need to be in LA. This is where the industry is. This is where the industry is. And I'm like, in a lot of ways, LA is a cesspool of negativity. And so do you actually have to be in LA? Because this person was really missing home, and a lot of things about home. And I was like, do you have to be in LA? Or is that a belief that you've made up because of what society is saying? And so, through some sessions and just some unpacking, it was like, well, why do you really love acting? Like, what do you really love about it? And this is where my clients know this. So my clients who are watching, my knife of clarity comes out, and so it's like, why are you acting? Are you acting to live in LA? Are you acting to be in a Hollywood movie? Because even then, how many movies get filmed elsewhere anyway? For tax purposes or whatever the hell, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's like, don't believe anything I say, don't believe anything you say, don't believe anything. And just keep asking questions like, what is possible? What is possible? And like, I would not have the life that I have right now if I didn't ask those questions. And I would not have the tools and the gifts and the resources to then support my clients into their own version of what we're talking about here if I didn't ask those questions. And, I think this next generation, I don't know if that's the right word, but this next wave of energy that's coming in is calling us to become more of who we authentically are. And you can stay at your company. Like, I'm not saying you have to ditch the corporate. It's like, but what are you ditching and what are you stepping into is essentially the question that's being asked. And I think the question that we've all been forced to answer, given, all this coronavirus and pandemic and
I think
whatever.
I think another point is the sense of purpose. Like for me, that is the core that's got to run through my life. So the sense of purpose, like having that thing that you're holding on to, that's the reason you're doing things. And I think I've got a really strong belief that my work and personal life are not separate. I don't kind of see myself as going to a job and this starts here, we work, and then we stop. It all blends in because my sense of purpose is so connected to what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm making money from. And then that kind of goes into the travel piece too, because a lot of people see their travel or their holidays as that separation from work and that time away, whereas I see it all combined. It's like I'm on an annual retirement with some like fun and work all kind of combined in one. It's a whole journey. It's not just like, it's a soup. It's not a piece of fruit or a fruit basket.
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out. It is about a sense of purpose, and like the word purpose and then the word meaning comes to mind. Like everyone, regardless of who you are, wants to have a sense of purpose. I think that's like one of the things of like being a human being or in this human experience. You want to have a sense of purpose. You want to create meaning with your life. And the question that I pose to anyone watching this is like, are you doing that? And if not, how can you do that? Right? So, which actually is a great way for me to like just shamelessly plug what I've got going on. So, Illuminate, a lot of you were part of Illuminate, but Illuminate is now available for $22 on my website, but it's an amazing 5 worksheet series on on clarifying your path by loving yourself from within. So finding that sense of purpose, clarifying what that really is, releasing all the negative toxic energy that's standing in the way of what it is you want to create, releasing those belief systems that hold you back, activating the confidence so that you can actually take action once you've gotten clear. And then how do you strategize that path to freedom, right? So that's what Illuminate is all about, which is actually, you know, the prequel to Radiance, which is my 4-month self-love journey, which some of y'all watching are in Radiance. And Radiance is all about creating passion and purpose, using your unique self-love blueprint. So that's what I've got. I mean, this is what we do, you know. This is what do you have going on, Leah, with Get Comfy with Money?
What do I have? So at the moment, I'm exploring the female cycle, our reproductive menstrual cycle, and how that affects our finances. So I've got a talk, a Facebook Live coming up this weekend with an amazing dear friend and actually my sister-in-law who has her initiative is With My Flow, and it's all about living according to your flow and how different times of the month you're good at planning, others you need to strategize, others you need to network. So we're going to put that all in finance terms. I'm working on an online course as well, which is all around mastering your money and becoming the boss that you should be, charging your worth, figuring out what it is that you want to do, and combining that idea of creativity and your passion with sustainable business practice. So yeah, I'm working away in the background on all of those things, and I'm coaching some amazing clients and helping them kind of achieve their goals when it comes to their future successes.
Right. And so the talk is going to be on Facebook?
Yeah, it's going to be on Facebook Live. I need to check the time. So it's 7:30 p.m. Australia time, which I don't know what that translates to. I think you're asleep.
Sydney time?
Sydney time, yeah.
So that's 5 a.m., 5:30
a.m.
5:30 a.m. Eastern time, but they can catch the replay. And is it going to be in the Facebook group?
It's going to be on Facebook, on my Facebook page. So Leah Lowenthal should have my name down there.
I'm going to pop this on.
Thank you.
Because you're probably going to post about it on your Instagram, right?
Yeah, okay. I'll post about Instagram.
Yeah, so just follow Leah at is that right? Did I do it right?
Yeah, that's right.
so follow Leah on Instagram at Get Comfy with Money, because she'll post about when that is. But when you do a Facebook Live, the replay is going to be there. But hey, look, if you want to wake up at 5:30 a.m. and talk about your period and money, I mean, who doesn't want to do that? So, yes, and then Leah, you can follow Leah. I also tagged her in this post, so you can follow Leah on Facebook to watch that and do all the things. So, yay! I love it. Like, so, you know, and this is really what it is, right? So, and tell me if you agree, but like, we're talking about like, actually, let me leave that up for a little bit. We're talking about like ditching the corporate world or ditching whatever to create the life you want. And so, for me, a big reason why I take these risks, number one, because my soul calls for it. But number two, it's how I make my impact, right? Because I basically help people to do what I do. And not that what I did is exactly what you want to do, but it's like to figure out what that is for you, you know? And that's why I created programs like Illuminate and programs like Radiance, because it's like, I want to show you how to do that and how to break. And because it's, you know, here's the thing. The steps are always simple. People always think I need to know the how, I need the steps. No, the steps are the easiest part. Like you said, like I put all my stuff in storage. I get rid of my stuff. Like, how do I travel the world? I pack a bag, I buy a plane ticket. Like, it's not that hard. What's hard is all the emotional shit that's weighing us down and holding us back, and the belief systems that we have about what our life can be. And I think a big part of your work and my work is dismantling all of that.
Yeah, I was going to say deconstructing.
Deconstruct. Yeah, deconstruct. Yeah. And also the emotions, because I know a lot of what you do is about the emotions too, right? And so it's like, people are like, oh, just give me the how. I'm like, yeah, I can give you the how, and I guarantee you, you won't execute it. Because your fears, your emotions, your shit is going to get in the way. And I can't tell you how many people I give the how to, and they still got to book sessions with me and be like, what? And it's not because you're not smart. It's not because you're not capable. It's because there's a lot of baggage, and we all have that baggage, and we all need to deconstruct, deprogram, unprogram, unlearn. And I say this all the time, hire a coach. Like, don't be cheap. Do it. If you want to do something great in your life, hire a coach. Like, all the people that have achieved something great have had coaches. Think of anyone great, they've had a coach. They've had someone guide them. And so it's interesting to me how when it comes to like life coaching, people get all like weird about it, which, I mean, it's fine. It's getting more and more normalized, but like, I don't know. My business, my life would not be where it was if I did not invest in personal development. 100%. If I just read books, like, I would not be here. So, yeah. Thank you for being here. Any final thoughts, Leah, from you as we wrap up today's episode?
Oh, any final thoughts?
No pressure.
I think we've covered everything. Yeah, I think I love that piece on just following your purpose. And I mean, where it comes from me is I imagine my future self, 80-year-old Leah. What would she say during this moment? And then I think you mentioned as well that, well, you have to do the piece of what would 8-year-old you say too. So it's combining that what would you want to look back on your life and have seen, and also like, where's that fun and that living in the moment piece that you can bring in every day so that you're actually having fun too.
What would 8-year-old you say, and what would 80-year-old you say?
Yeah.
That's a great one. I love that. Thank you so much for being here again. I hope you watching. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, Wind Down Wednesday. We're here every week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. What am I? I'm like reading. 6 p.m. Pacific. Or if you're in Sydney, like Leah, it's actually, what time was it for you? 11 a.m. Thursday for you. And that's 9 a.m. Manila time. We're worldwide up in here. So catch the show next time. I'm hoping I can get a guest to come on. We're going to talk about twin flame. We haven't talked about relationships in a while. I've been on the career tip for a while, and we haven't talked about relationships and dating. We did talk about WAP last week, though, with Candace, which is, it's a relationship. So I'm going to try to get someone to talk about twin flames. But if you want to find out like what the topics are and all of that, you definitely just need to get on my email list, because I send it out every Wednesday what we're going to talk about, and a reminder so you can join the show, and you can join my email list also at ameliafortes.com. So yeah, thank you so much for being here and watching the show and being a fan. And thank you so much, Leah. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
See you.
Bye, everybody.